we start? Good evening, everyone. Welcome, everyone, to the meeting for the Planning and Development Committee for November 4th, 2019. All members of committee are present except Councilor Medeiros, Councilor Vicente, and Councilor Williams. So we're going to have, I think, a 15-minute break, recess, and come back. As there's an event downstairs that we have to be at. So 15 minutes, I think, will be okay? Good. You wanted me to stop here? You want to do the approve of the, you want to go through approve? Okay. So approve of the agenda. All members of the committee. There are a few agenda changes to identify the package in front of you. I'll ask the clerk to review the changes of today's agenda since its publication on October 25th.
So members of committee, members of staff, and the public in attendance are watching this evening's meeting. These are the changes to this evening's agenda. The agenda was published a week and a half ago. There are 3 statutory public notice items on tonight's agenda. The first one is 4.1 regarding a draft plan of subdivision in the area of southwest corner of Countryside Drive and Coleraine Drive in Ward 10. There is additional correspondence identified in today's agenda as 13.4, which I'll review in a moment, related to this item. The second statutory public notice item, which is an application to amend the zoning bylaw to permit oversized motor vehicle storage for a temporary period of 3 years northeast of Airport Road and Lacoste Boulevard in Ward 10. There also is correspondence in regard to this item, which is identified as 13.2 on the agenda changes. As well, there is additional pictures submitted from Regional Councillor Dillon, as well as 2 videos from Councillor Dillon to be played during consideration of that item. Item 4.3 on the agenda as the final statutory public notice item is an application to amend the zoning bylaw to permit the development of townhouse units. And this is in the area of the southeast corner of Bramalea Road and Inspire Boulevard, east of the place of worship property in Ward 9. As well, there is correspondence identified as 13.3 on this agenda. After we deal with those 3 statutory public notice items, there is delegations which are listed on tonight's agenda in regard to 23 Hillside Drive. There are 7 delegations listed with the clerk's office that are brought to the attention of the committee for tonight's agenda, and they're shown on the display in front of you. There also is the report 11.1 related to this item, and there is additional correspondence 13.1 on this evening's agenda. And just moving through the agenda, when we have the deferred matter, which is 11.1, the staff report regarding the group home policy review in 23 Hillside Drive. There was an updated report to correct some typographical errors that was published on the city's website on October 28th. There is the correspondence, which I mentioned, 13.1 from Esther Isaacs, owner and operator of Rebeccaville Seniors Residence, regarding 23 Hillside. Item 13.2 is correspondence from various residents in regards to statutory public notice item 4.2 that I mentioned earlier. 13.3 is correspondence from Andrew Orr, President, Brampton Area 48 Landowners, in regard to the statutory public notice item 4.3 mentioned earlier. And finally, we have correspondence from Overland LLP in regard to the statutory public notice item 4.1 noted earlier on the agenda. And those are the changes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. So are there any other additions or changes, delegations of the agenda? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the agenda for today's meeting? Councillor Bowman, all in favor? Passed. So I think we'll consent. Okay. Want to go into the consent, or we want to stop it here? Okay, we can stop it here.
Do consent so that there are people here for
okay. Okay, here's the consent item. Okay. So, number 2, delegation. Do any members have declaration and plenary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act for any matters to be considered on today's agenda? Seeing none. Well, the clerk will also note the meaning of the minutes. Consent agenda. So there's 3 items on the consent agenda. Anybody wants to remove or add something from the consent agenda? Seeing none. Move consent. Have a motion to approve the consent agenda from Councilor Palashi. All in favor? So now we'll break now, and we'll come back in about 15 minutes. Yeah, motion to recess. Councilor Santos. All approved? Thank you. Yeah.
So members of the public in attendance tonight, so the committee has just recessed for 15 minutes. The reason the committee is recessed is because the quorum for this committee, which is how many members have to be present to have a properly constituted meeting, is 6. And we only have 6 members in the chamber with us tonight because of some members that are absent or ill. There isn't a city event downstairs. Dr. David Suzuki is in attendance in City Hall tonight, and 2 members of council have already been invited before this meeting was scheduled to bring remarks of greetings on behalf of the city. So in order to continue this meeting, we have to recess for a few minutes to allow the 2 members to bring short remarks downstairs. Then the committee will reconvene in 15 minutes,
It's enough
and they
time,
will
huh?
continue with tonight's agenda.
Okay. Thank you. We're recessed. Welcome back, everyone. So thank you for the patience. And so we have 3 public meetings items on this evening agenda. So one is 4.1. Is anyone here for 4.1? It's a draft plan subdivision to permit unemployment, stormwater management, and natural heritage use. Glenn Snar and Associate on behalf of Core Properties in Heart Lake 7 Limited. It's on Countryside. Is anyone here? Okay, so I'll skip that. There's someone here. We'll go on to 4.2. 4.2, an application for zoning bylaw to permit the parking of oversized motor vehicle trailers and vacant property for temporary use for 3 years. Western Consultant on behalf of IBL Containers Refurbishing, northeast of Airport Road and Locesta Boulevard, Ward 10. Is anyone here for that one? Okay, so then we'll go on to that one. That's great. Someone there. We'll move on to 4.3. 4.3, an application to amend the zoning bylaw to permit residential development of 162 stacked townhouses and 23 townhouses with live-work units. Brampton Bramley Christian Fellowship. 4.2, anyone here for that? Sorry, 4.3. We got one. Okay, so I guess we'll start it back at 4.1. Yeah, there was some people for 4.1. Okay, yes. Yeah. So 4.1 is, okay, we have some people here. So we're going to have a presentation by staff on, it's Rob for development, planning, development, to come down and do a presentation. Yeah. Does the public want to hear a presentation? Yes. Okay, thank you, Rob. I guess. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of committee, and the public. My name is Rob Nicky Fortune, and I'm the city's development planner assigned to process this draft plan of subdivision application in support of the proposed industrial development that was prepared by Glenn Schnarr and Associates, who are the planners that are working on behalf of the client, Orlando Corporation. The lands subject to this application are located in the northeast corner of Brampton, and more specifically, the site is located south of Countryside Drive and west of Coleraine Drive. As you can see, the property is rectangular in shape and has an overall site area of about 82 hectares. Oops, there you are, sorry, 82 hectares, or about 204 acres. The Rainbow Creek watercourse traverses the property in a north to south fashion. The property has been used for agricultural purposes and is generally vacant, except for a heritage dwelling, which has been placed on a raised foundation near the northeast corner of the property. The purpose of the subdivision application is to allow the site to be subdivided for future employment development and to establish the valley limits, as well as the lands needed for the 3 stormwater management ponds. The applicant has prepared a concept plan that shows how 7 new industrial warehouse buildings can be accommodated within the employment portion of the site. At this point in time, city planning staff have received the applicant's development application and have circulated the application to internal and external departments and agencies for comment. and have it advance the application to this public meeting to solicit comments from any interested parties. Public meeting notice for this subdivision application has been provided to all property owners located within 240 meters of the site. In summary, tonight's public meeting is only to discuss the proposed draft plan of subdivision application, which will allow the lands west of Coleraine Drive to be subdivided into blocks for employment lands, roads, stormwater management ponds, and to establish the limits of the watercourse. The applicant also needs to amend the existing land use permissions in support of the proposed industrial development and to create appropriate environmental permissions for the valley corridor and the stormwater management ponds. In this regard, it is noted that the applicant has also filed an application for an official plan amendment and a zoning bylaw amendment back in August of 2014, which is just now over about 5 years ago. A public meeting for this official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment application was later held in February of 2015. It is noted that this official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment application apply to lands that are subject to this subdivision application, along with other lands that are located on the east side of Coleraine Drive. This latter application was appealed to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal, LPAT, by the applicant on November 30th of 2017 due to a lack of decision on the land use approvals as prescribed by the Planning Act. The applicant's subdivision application and the associated official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment application to allow the lands to be developed for employment purposes and to protect the environmental feature is consistent with the provincial and regional land use policy framework. The following few slides will provide an overview of the city's governing land use permissions. The city's official plan contains quarter protection policies to protect for the accommodation of the future arterial road network and in northeast Brampton and to protect for the ultimate extension of Highway 427. These are not in mine? That one. Yep. Okay. Within Schedule 1 of the city's official plan, the site is designated employment area and open space. Within Schedule A of the city's official plan, the site is designated industrial, open space, and quarter protection area. Sorry, back on slides, okay. Within Schedule D of the city's official plan, the portion of the site containing the Rainbow Creek is designated valley land / watercourse corridor and woodland. Although the proposed industrial development is considered to be consistent with the policies of the city's official plan, and an amendment is required to update some of the land use and transportation schedules to modify the corridor protection limits and the road network in northeast Brampton. The lands are also governed by the Highway 427 Industrial Secondary Plan. Within Schedule 47A of the Highway 427 Industrial Secondary Plan, the site is designated employment, business park, stormwater management pond, and natural heritage system. The proposed development is consistent with the policies of this designation, which permits retail, warehousing, restaurants, retail, and service type uses. A north-south major arterial road is proposed along the west limit of the property, while the Coleraine Drive and Countryside Drive are to be designed and constructed as a minor arterial road. Future driveway access for the industrial development will be determined at the site plan approval stage of development. Within the secondary plan document, there are specific policies and portions of the land use schedules that have been scoped and that are subject to appeal over land use and transportation-related issues, as shown in the hatched area in the northeast portion, and the Orlando lands subject to the subdivision are outlined in yellow on the map above. As such, an amendment application is also required to amend the various land use and transportation schedules within the secondary plan document. Within the city's comprehensive zoning bylaw, the site is zoned agricultural. An amendment to the zoning bylaw is required to rezone the employment lands to be appropriate prestige industrial zone category and to rezone the environmentally sensitive portions of the site for open space and floodplain purposes. There are a few ongoing planning and transportation issues associated with the processing of the various development applications, which will need to be addressed within the final recommendation report. These include the following. Firstly, the city and region are involved with the municipal class Schedule C environmental assessment, which will, among other things, will involve the construction of a new north-south arterial road along the west limit of the subject property and involve upgrades to the width and reconfiguration of Coleraine Drive. A second public information center meeting is scheduled for November 14th of this year to solicit comments from interested stakeholders. The expectation is that the environmental assessment will be completed in early 2020, at which time all matters relating to land use implications, costs, property, and environmental impacts will be known. Second, detailed engineering and transportation comments are needed to determine whether road improvements or upgrades are needed to support some or all of the proposed industrial development. The applicant has provided a traffic study to determine where and how much industrial development can take place in advance of the new road infrastructure being constructed. Third, there is now ongoing environmental work being done on the Rainbow Creek's Master Environmental Servicing Plan, or MESP. Completion of this environmental work is anticipated in the spring of next year, and then a scoped environmental impact study will be prepared thereafter. Lastly, as I mentioned, land use planning matters will need to be addressed by the Local Planning Appeals Tribunal. The next pre-hearing meeting is scheduled for actually there's a telephone conference in middle of December, and the next pre-hearing meeting is scheduled for late April or early May next year. At that time, the applicant will be requesting zoning approval for the lands located east of Coleraine Drive, which is known as their Phase 1 development lands. The Phase 2 development will occur on lands located west of Coleraine Drive. It is expected that both the Phase 1 and Phase 2 lands will amount to an overall gross floor area of about 371,000 square meters, or about 4 million square feet of employment land development. Any potential development issues that are raised through the ongoing processing of this application will be addressed within the future planning recommendation report for this subdivision application. Next steps. The purpose of this public meeting is to provide you, the public, with an opportunity to comment on this proposal. It's not going through. Okay. Okay. Thank you. So to comment, with an opportunity to comment, and any comments received this evening will then be issued in the preparation of a future recommendation report and will be forwarded back to Planning and Development Services Committee. All members of the public that provide their contact information for this application will be advised when the future recommendation report will be presented. I am still in the process of collecting comments for the development application from the internal, external departments and agencies. Both the public meeting slides shown here tonight and the planning information report for this application can be found online in the city's website. The final recommendation report will be posted online 1 week prior to the planning committee meeting. Should you have any questions or require greater clarification on this project, you can contact either myself or the applicant's planning consultant, Mr. Carl Brawley of Glenschnar & Associates. Mr. Chairman, this concludes the presentation.
Thank you, Rob. So does only members have questions of the city staff for clarification only regarding this proposal? Yeah. Any members of the public? Come on down. Thank you, and state your name.
It's Michael Gagnon from GWD Planners. I guess the audio visual was acting up tonight. It was hard to follow that presentation, but fortunately our client Cavez, the owner of the property on the east side of Coleraine Drive, just south of this development, is quite familiar with what's proposed. But I'm wondering if staff could put up perhaps the air photograph showing the subject lands. That's great. So if you see where the property is located in black, just to the lower right-hand corner, right there, that is the Cavez property, and that's located at 10605 Coleraine Drive. Our client has owned that property since 1976, and city staff are quite familiar with our client's concerns. Our client operates Fernview Construction from that location and has, as I mentioned, since 1976. They participated in a fulsome rezoning process prior to building that development, and in fact, they went to the extent of having to extend the services up into this area. And we have been working with the city staff to try and reconcile our clients' concerns, not only with what's proposed by our neighbors, Orlando, but also roadworks that are being studied under various environmental assessment process. Some of the slides that Rob had put up speak to the road pattern. The long and the short of it is, if you read the staff report, you'll see that staff have correctly indicated that this application is premature, and most certainly the approval of it would be premature, subject to the advancement of work on environmental assessments. And we had a meeting this afternoon, in the middle of the afternoon, with staff from the region and the city, along with consultants you've hired. It was a very good meeting. It was good in the sense that we were afforded an opportunity to be given a fulsome presentation on what might be happening with Coleraine Drive, and that's the road that our clients front onto. And then there's a second street, another arterial road that's on the west side of the subject site. It's called Arterial Road A2, and it is supposed to be an extension of Major Mackenzie. And the meeting this afternoon allowed us, as I mentioned, an opportunity to see what's being planned. And one of the issues we have, and thank you, Alan, if you could put the pointer at the south end of Coleraine on the left image, right there, and then kind of follow that road north and east. Coleraine, the dash line, there it is. Okay, so you can see block 20, it looks like it's block 21, is our client's property. We currently are enjoying frontage on Coleraine. This plan is proposing to take away our client's frontage. So basically, the frontage that they currently enjoy will be, and have for decades, will be eliminated through the roadworks that are being planned in this area and the Orlando draft plan of subdivision. We've instructed our engineers as of late this afternoon to take the plan that was shared with us earlier today to see if it isn't possible to somehow preserve at least a portion of the frontage that our client has enjoyed for over 40 years, so that he can continue to have a Coleraine address on a road of a similar character of what the road he has today. And when I say a similar character, in terms of its role and function, what will happen if we lose the frontage that we currently have is we'll be on a secondary road, and we will also have to determine with the municipality and the region how we're going to access the lands. So we're hopeful over the course of the next weeks and months that we will be able to come up with something that not only satisfies Orlando's interest, but also respects the historic frontage our client has had on Coleraine. I am pleased to report, with the help of Alan and your Commissioner of Planning, that we were able to reconcile an issue of another roadway recently that was originally proposed to come right through our client's property, not just their property, but right through the office our client occupies and runs his company from. So fortunately, after many months of saying that maybe this road isn't needed, with your new Commissioner of Planning and Alan, everyone sort of saw things the same way. That was a major accomplishment, and we are very appreciative of your Commissioner's work on that. We are hopeful that, based on the meeting we had this afternoon, that we can also hit a home run, as it were, with Coleraine. We'll have our engineers look at it, being mindful of costs and geometry and all that good stuff. But with that in mind, the letter from our client's solicitor summarizes our position, and we are hopeful that we will be able to reconcile all of our concerns over the next few months, and then the millions of square feet that Orlando is proposing to build will be able to proceed. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, for this opportunity to
Thank you so
address
much,
committee.
Mr. Gagnon. So the comments will be addressed to the staff? on
Yes,
it?
thank you.
Okay, thank you. So do any council members have questions for clarification regarding this proposal? Seeing none, may I have a motion, Councillor Singh, to approve the staff report? Oh, I'm sorry, members? I'm sorry, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't see you in the corner. Please.
The overhead? Yeah. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair, respected members of council. My name is Ralph Gratani. I'm with design and planning firm RGC Design Group. I'm here this evening to represent two properties adjacent and north of the Orlando lands. And I prepared a graphic today. We'll get through it. I do have extra copies to circulate if required. And within the illustration drawing, I've identified the two properties, one to the north of the Orlando lands, being approximately 25 acres in size, 10 hectare, and the property to the west of the prescribed arterial road A2, proposed road A2, which is approximately 47 acres in size. The purpose of our attendance here this evening is to respond to the public notices recently received with any and all planning matters related to this development, and secondly, to inquire about timelines for the completion of the staff report with recommendations and, of course, a comprehensive evaluation before this committee. Our firm has circulated two letters over the last week to ensure inclusion of our sites within the tertiary development of these properties. We wish to ensure that our letters of interest were received by staff and the planning committee and are recorded as a matter of record, in addition, of course, me being here this evening. We'll continue to dialogue with city planning staff in regards to the completion of a staff report that's, I think, scheduled for prior to the LPAT hearing, which is still pending. We're aware of the process that staff has communicated with us earlier this evening. During the public forum, we had a chance to speak to the developer and their representatives. And we submit that we're not here to oppose this application, but feel that our client's development intentions will not be precluded before this application process is completed. We will move forward in continuance in support of the planning studies that are underway, both, of course, locally and regionally within the Area 47 secondary plan. I thank you for this opportunity to present a condensed deputation on important matters for you this evening.
Thanks so much. A couple of these. Thank you. Thank you. So anyone else to come down to speak on this application? Seeing none. So do any members have questions for clarification regarding this proposal only, Ms. Council? Seeing none, may I have a motion? Councillor Singh, to approve the staff report. All in favor? Carried. And also receive the correspondence. Thank you. Yes. Okay, we'll move on to 4.2. It's an application to amend the zoning bylaw to permit the parking oversized motor vehicles, trailers, on a vacant property for temporary 3 years. Weston Consultant, on behalf of IBL Containers Refurbishing, Northeast Airport Road and Locusta Boulevard, Ward 10. Is anyone here to speak on this behalf? Please come down and state your name, please. You want a staff report first?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do the staff. We'll do the staff report first, please.
Good evening. My name is Bindu Shah, and I'm the planner assigned to process and review this application. The purpose of this meeting is to provide information and seek feedback on it, and this application has been filed by Western Consulting for IBL container refurbishing. The subject property is located in Ward 10 on the east side of Airport Road, north of Lacoste Boulevard, and the nearest major intersection is Mayfield Road and Airport Road. The applicant is proposing parking of oversized motor vehicles, especially trailers, on a vacant property for a period of 3 years. So this is a temporary use bylaw that is being proposed here. And it requires a site-specific amendment to the existing zoning, which is Industrial 4, M4 zoning. Right now, the process has been today that we have received the application. We received this in March 2018, and it was deemed complete just recently on September 4th, 2019. And now it has been circulated to commenting departments and agencies for their review, and public notice was provided in the paper on October 10th, 2019. In addition, direct mail notice was provided to property owners within a 240-meter radius. The context is that on the north, there is currently vacant land, but it has been recently subject to a pre-application to permit retail and commercial uses. To the south, there are 2 properties for industrial uses. The one to the immediate south has also unauthorized storage of transport trucks, that's ongoing, beyond which is a commercial plaza and Lacoste Boulevard. And to the east is a residential subdivision of single detached dwellings. Here is an aerial view of the property. If you can see, the use is ongoing. This explains the proposal for the rezoning application. If you notice, there is access off Airport Road. There is outdoor storage of 33 container trailers and car parking too. There is a landscape buffer proposed around the storage area, and there is fencing around on the north side and the south side. We have identified some issues with the development in regards to the access, which is going to be reviewed by the region of Peel because it's a regional road. And there's a traffic impact study, which is going to be reviewed. Urban design, there are some issues with the frontage on Airport Road and the look and feel and the character of this use on a business corridor. And the most important one is whether this application is appropriate in terms of its integration with the residential neighborhood to the east. The subject application, as I said, is being reviewed for consistency with the provincial policy statement and conformity with the provincial growth plan and other studies and the region and city's official plans. Currently, the official plan designation is business corridor. If you see the one in blue, that's all over. And it permits a broad range of employment and employment-related uses, including hotels and motels. But it does prohibit uses such as automobile repair, commercial self-storage warehouses, and uses that involve outdoor storage. However, in accordance with Section 5 of the plan, a temporary use bylaw does not require an amendment to the official plan. And there are some criteria to that, and provided the use is temporary, utilizes existing or temporary structures, and there is no significant alteration of the land. The secondary plan designation in the Vales of Castlemore North secondary plan is service employment. And that specifically means uses such as a printing establishment, offices, banks, healthcare centers that are intended to serve the area residents and businesses around that property. The zoning bylaw currently designates this as M4, Industrial 4, and therefore an amendment, this is the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, is required. Which proposes addition of the use of parking of oversized vehicles for a period of 3 years. Related to that, there are a few other additional regulations that are proposed. Minimum side yard width on the north side to be 4 meters and landscaping strip to be 4.5 meters. As I mentioned, we have identified some issues, but basically before a temporary use bylaw can be reviewed, the official plan has certain criteria for the review of these bylaws. Important ones to note are that the proposed use should not create or aggravate any situation detrimental to adjacent complying uses. It should not adversely affect surrounding uses in terms of air pollution, odor, noise, light, or traffic congestion. And then there are other uses that we need to review. So far, we have identified a few issues related to access. Also, it's operational, the use, despite not having any permissions in place. Noise feasibility study and odor impact study have been submitted and will be reviewed. And the region of Peel also would like to review the access to the site because it is a regional road, as I mentioned. The next steps after this public meeting are that we will continue to review the application and we will advance a final recommendation report to council for a decision. All the issues that are raised, including the issues raised by public members today, will be addressed in the recommendation report. And the report associated with this will be available online. The presentation will also be available online. My name is Bindu Shah, and this is my contact information on the screen. And the applicant is Western Consulting, representing the owner, IBL Containers. Thank you.
So anyone from the public would like to come down, state your name, and we're here. Please sign in. Is there anyone else wish to speak on this? Come down and sign in now. Someone? Good. Good. Just one. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, good
Please state your
evening.
name.
Yes, Charmal Singh Sekho. I'm a resident at 76 Lee Park Road, which is behind those proposed trailer yard. And we already have a concern with the trailer parking. There's one already existing, and this particular one was a chassis storage. And there was illegally chassis storage stacked one on another up to 4, about 13, 14 feet high. So we complained to the city, and then they stopped after a couple of years. Now they had changed, put up an application to get the zoning changed for temporary, and they already start parking truck there. The trucks parking has big concern. They're coming in and out in the middle of the night and waking our kids, and we cannot enjoy our backyard, and noise pollution. And even one time there is a truck fire right behind our yard. Big time. We have a few videos and which we sent to the council if we can play. The yard, and sometimes the trucks comes in and their light comes right into our bedrooms, master bedrooms, and it wakes up our kids and ourselves, and there's a big safety concern too. The trucks being washed there and trucks being repaired, and we have pictures and videos of it, and which we provided. And there's a noise and odor. There's a lot of odor from pollution from the trucks. And some of the refrigerated trucks, the reefers, they run 24 hours a day constantly. And there's a safety concern too for our kids when we going in and out, and we cannot even enjoy our backyard. We cannot go out from our bedroom. We cannot open the curtain. There's trucks, there's drivers there, and from our backyard, from past years, we haven't even done anything. And there's a big concern for it, and I hope this members of council will deny this, even it's a temporary. They're already hunting us from past 3 years, and we're trying to fight them with the city. And one of the yard, I think its matter is in the court too. So this is it. I think that's all we covered. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Seagal. So we're going to have the comments all addressed to the staff, and they'll get back to them. I think there's one more resident.
Whatever you said, I'm back in there.
You're fine with it. Okay, thank you. So I think there's a video that's supposed to be shown.
So through you, Mr. Chair, there is two videos submitted by Councillor Dillon, who couldn't be here tonight. And you can't see it yet.
Basketball net.
So members of committee, there's a second video.
Truck is on fire.
So, thank you. So do any members, have questions? I see Councillor Singh.
Yeah,
Staff, thank you.
yeah, I do have a question of clarification. Just for context, this was sent by the residents, and then Councillor Dillon wanted to have this showcased, as did the residents. I just had a question because I'm not too familiar with these type of cases, but for clarification, it seems like this property's been used as a parking lot for some time. So, has there been bylaw attending these? Has there been any infractions? Do we know the history, or we're going to look at that? Just wanted to understand a little bit because it seems like it's been used like this for a few years, to my understanding.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I can confirm that enforcement has attended this property on several occasions, and we have issued violation notices. It's clearly in contravention and has been operating in contravention of the zoning bylaw for quite some time. The matter is currently before the courts, so there is ongoing enforcement with respect to this property as well as the one adjacent to the south.
Okay, so both properties?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and I guess that'll be incorporated in the staff report as well, the history and all that, right? Okay, I guess we'll also be there to continue to listen to residents and connect with staff, and whatever pictures or documentation residents could give us, we'll continue sending to staff as well, from myself and Councilor Dillon. Thank you.
Thank you. So can I have a motion to approve of the staff report? Councillor Palashi, all in favor? That's- And also a motion to receive the correspondent, Councillor Singh, all in favor? Passed. Okay, we'll move on to 4.3. This is an application to amend the zoning bylaw to permit residential development, 162 stacked townhouses, 23 townhouses with working units. Brampton Bramley Christian Fellowship, Brampton Northwest Shopping Center Limited CO, Cape LM Planning and Partner Inc., South Corner of Bramley Road and Inspire Boulevard. I think we had some people that wanted to come down. No one wants a presentation. Does anyone want to see a presentation? No? Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the staff report? Councilor Palashi, all in favor? Carries. And also a motion to receive the current sponsor, Councillor Singh. All in favor? Followed. So now we're moving on to 5. I think we got 7 delegations for 5.1. Okay. We'll give it a minute. So I only have one on my agenda. You're going to put them on the screen? Okay. Okay, so our next item is 5.1. This is a residential for 23 Hillside Drive. So we have some delegations tonight. The first one's Ali Mohammed. Please come down. You got 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Ali Muhammad. I'm a resident of Bramley Woods, and I'll try to finish within 5 minutes. If not, through you, I'd like to request an increase.
Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, respected chairs, councillors, city officials, and the community. First of all, on behalf of Bramley Woods community, which I think is 50% of the house right now, over 50%, we would like to thank Councillor Fortini for speaking up for the residents' legitimate concerns in our community. Contrary to what certain individuals are accusing us of, we are a seniors community in ourselves. Over 50% of the residents of Bramley Woods are seniors, and we care about the long-term care of our residents. Having a for-profit, privately run group home in an established neighborhood like ours is not the way to go, especially given the policy gap that exists between the provincial expectations and outdated municipal bylaws. We are disappointed in a certain councillor who has instead sided with the for-profit private interest of a company interested in putting a group home business into our residential neighborhood. As there are over 100 seniors living in Bramley Woods, without updated policy from the city, private interests of for-profit group homes business will not only get away with disrupting a neighborhood, but could also get away with inadequate standards of health and safety for our seniors. If the for-profit company that wants to put a group home into our neighborhood really cares, you would think that they would do proper outreach and get support from our community in which they want to have a group home located. Doing anything else would create a toxic environment for residents and clients of the for-profit group home company. We, the residents of Bramley Woods, feel that the false propaganda and publicity is being used to pervert the political and democratic civic process in our constituency. Where are the human rights for seniors, our vulnerable population, who will sign up to be a resident at 23 Hillside without the knowledge that another similar business named Esterville Manor, owned by the same individual as 23 Hillside Drive, has several outstanding inspection infractions. Retirement Home Regulatory Authority, RHRA website outlines inspection infractions violations at Esterville Manor Limited. It is evident from various inspection reports conducted over the past 4 years, councillors, that there are several serious infractions, and this outfit does not care for the seniors' health, safety, and overall well-being. The reports do indicate that while some issues have been addressed, however, certain other infractions are still outstanding. These inspection reports are available online to public, and that's how I access them. Infractions range from lack of staff training, no infection control and prevention program, tolerance for abuse and neglect, gaps in medication administration and storage, and gaps in locking of controlled drugs and substances, and the list goes on and on. This is for our seniors who are in a challenged situation, and the business is still running as we speak. How can the relevant authorities let a service run for seniors when it violates basic rights of our vulnerable senior population? One day we are all seniors, including myself. Tonight I might be the youngest within our community here, but that is because a lot of them are so old that they can't even leave in this cold night to attend otherwise this place will be packed. Needless to say, the owners, operators documented poor track record of running Esterville Manor business should prohibit them from opening another similar facility in our neighborhood. This begs the question, since we all are supporters of seniors and their well-being, or at least we claim to, why don't our councillors and relevant authorities start by taking action against Esterville Manor to protect our vulnerable seniors? At the same time, we would also like to know if the city has taken any action to address these violations. At this point, it is my understanding there are at least 4 senior/assisted/retired residences or group homes within a few hundred meters radius from Bramley Woods. These include Bramley Retirement Residence, Old Holiday Inn, Crescent Hill Retirement Residence, 2 Heath Seniors Residence located within the Bramley Woods, and Norton Lake Seniors Residence. This is what I found online, and there could be more, or there might be some that are not even listed. It has been brought to our attention this afternoon that a flyer has been distributed in Brampton to support.
You're almost out of time.
I just need another minute, Councillor, if you would allow me, please. Thank you. It has been brought to our attention this afternoon that a flyer has been distributed in Brampton in support of 23 Hillside Retirement Residence. Respected councillors and city officials, please note the flyer refers to, which I have a copy right here, as a retirement residence, a stunning retirement residence, and not a group home. It's right here. It seems that for convenience, the owner keeps changing the designation or title from assisted living to group home and now to a retirement residence. Which one is it right now? Now, as per Bramley and Brampton bylaws, in order for this proposed facility to be considered a retirement home, this is as per the bylaws, more than 8 persons in addition to the staff and operator are required to be accommodated there. This place cannot house that many people with the current size. That's not possible. This facility does not meet the stipulations of a group home type 1 or of a sport home either, based on several points within the current definitions in the bylaws. In conclusion, this proposed facility is a business being brought into a residential area to make money, and they are not concerned about the people whom they are supposed to care for, proof being violations at Esterville Manor. Essentially, lens of human rights is being used to benefit capitalist intentions and not support a vulnerable population. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next one up is Ali Nomis, please. Let's try to stick with 5 minutes. I give you a little lead time. I'm going to give other people the same, but sorry, Ali, Mr. Ali Mohammed, there's a question for you from a councillor. Sure. Sorry, Norm, can you just give us 1 minute? I can't hear. Councillor Santos has a question for you.
Sure.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I saw a copy of the flyer as well. Just a quick question. Do you oppose seniors care or seniors in the city of Brampton?
Not at all whatsoever.
Okay. And do you think that the councillors here today and some of them who are not present, do you think that we are trying to stop any seniors care or seniors homes from coming to the city of Brampton?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
No.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Councillor Paleshi, hold on. Mr. Mohammed, there's one more question from Councillor Paleshi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you, have you contacted your local MPP?
Yes, we did. MPP Sarah Singh, NDP, and they said they will look into it. Certain other individuals from our neighborhood were in touch with him. I think, in fact, Al Nonis was there, so we might have an update. But the answer we got, to be very frank, is that they said they are not in the majority government, so they will see what they can do, but that's where it stands.
So, and I'm not too familiar with provincial politics or federal.
Right.
I have my own opinion about that, but so she's not in power, but there are MPPs who currently hold government in the city of Brampton, Armanjot Sandhu and Prabmeet Sakaria. Have you contacted either one of them?
No, not at this point, Councillor.
Thank you.
But that might be a good starting point. Yes. Thank you for your advice.
Sorry,
Any
miss.
other questions?
That's it. You can sit down.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lord. Please state your name.
Al Nonis, resident of Bramley Woods.
I'm going to give you 5 minutes. We went over, but let's try to keep our 5 minutes, please.
Not a problem, maybe less. Chair, councillors. The residents of Bramley Woods are in opposition to the Rebeccaville Assisted Living, Inc. application to operate a retirement home under the authority of the Group Home Type 1 designation of the City of Brampton zoning bylaw, section 10.4. To provide housing for up to 6 people, 65 years of age or older, operating under the Retirement Homes Act 2010. This is not a group home as originally contemplated by the Group Home Initiatives in Ontario. That initiative was originally conceived to promote small-scale facilities in residential neighborhoods in small communities which lack the provincial institutional facilities and sought to keep persons who needed these services within the community. The Region Appeal definition for group home is: a group home is usually a single-family dwelling for special populations that need a supervised living environment. Common examples include children and youth in care, individuals with developmental and physical disabilities, individuals recovering from substance abuse, teenage mothers, or victims of domestic abuse. Seniors is not among them. Retirement homes are not permitted to operate in areas zoned residential. They are restricted to specific locations. This is not an accident. Seniors have special needs and need access to a vast array of services. The city has completed in January 2019 a study under the heading of Housing Brampton Seniors Housing Study. This study has identified a number of suitable options and sites to meet the 2040 vision. It is interesting to note that group homes for seniors was not identified or recommended in this study as a solution to be adopted by the city. Now, getting back to the Rebeccaville application, this application must meet one of the following 2 mandatory requirements that are set forth in the Brampton bylaws under Section 5 definitions. Type 1 group homes must be an establishment which is licensed or approved pursuant to provincial statutes within the jurisdiction of the Ministry of Community and Social Services. It is not. Or the Ministry of Health. It is not. Or, if it's housing individuals over 60, it has to be a satellite residence. It is not. Under the Homes for the Aged and Rest Homes Act, which is now retired and replaced by the Retirement Homes Act, which has no provision for satellite homes. So in conclusion, this application should be turned around at the occupancy level, and it should not go any further. I now understand that the applicant has or is in the process of applying for a building permit to carry out required alterations for a classification to retirement home. This will require a rezoning variance application. As a resident of Bramalea Woods, I can assure you that we are all in opposition to having the area rezoned for a retirement home. There are no provisions, according to the long-range plan, to have such a home in a residential neighborhood. I want to thank you for your time and your consideration. I also want to thank the Planning and Zoning Department, which has been very helpful in giving us guidance and interpretations of the existing bylaws. And I am in full support of a motion that will allow us to review our bylaws and make sure that they are fully in sync with the spirit that they were enacted in the first place, and that they are in tandem with the provincial requirements and human rights requirements. I'm going to leave 3 years' worth of failed inspection reports for the other retirement home that the applicant is operating currently. It's a dismal record. I'll also leave a sheet that shows you the kinds of services that are being provided, and certainly none of these services go to replace the services that are provided by a hospital bed, as Councillor Williams has publicized. Nothing in here is a hospital service.
Thank you.
And also, a petition signed by 84 residents in support of these actions.
Thank you so much. So we have another one, Andre. Oh, sorry, there's a question. Councillor Santos. Norm, stay there.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Just a couple quick questions similar to the other questions I had asked. Thank you for your delegation, Mr. Nonis. Are you opposed to seniors' homes or senior care in the city of Brampton?
Pardon me?
Are you opposed to seniors' homes or seniors' care in the city of Brampton?
Not at all, in the right place, with the right services.
And do you believe that the city councilors here today and some of those who are not present today, do you believe that we are actively trying to stop a seniors' home coming forward here in the city of Brampton?
Not a seniors' home generally, but I am specifically against this Rebeccaville application.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have our third delegation is Andrew Levy. Andrew, state your name, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, councillors, residents. My name is Andre Levy, and I'm here to support and to stand in solidarity with Esther Isaacs. Esther Isaacs is and has continued to be a well-respected businesswoman in our community. She's a professional who exemplifies integrity and an immaculate character. Over 4 years ago, she went through the proper channels with the city to open a retirement home. A license to operate this home was granted to her, and the open house for that was attended by Councillor Paleshi and Councillor Willens, to my knowledge. My question is, why wasn't a motion filed then? Why weren't the policies and bylaws reviewed back then? What's different about this time? She has not violated any zoning or bylaws or human rights. She has gone through the proper channels to bring about a well-needed service to the city of Brampton. A service that will add value to the city, as well as the neighborhood in which it is professionally operated. There is absolutely no evidence that a retirement home would negatively impact a neighborhood. Absolutely none. I searched, I spoke to professionals, and there's no evidence. Ms. Isaacs has categorically no intention, contrary to popular rumors, she has no intention to house young offenders or any such thing. She simply wants to help seniors, retirees. Who wouldn't want to retire in a beautiful neighborhood? I think we all would want to retire somewhere beautiful, safe. Concerning the bylaws and zoning, Councillor Fortini, it is wrong and it is unethical to change the bylaws or zoning laws in the middle of an application for the sole purpose of blocking Ms. Isaacs' progress in creating a safe space for quiet senior and in a retirement home. I am of the opinion that that is unethical, sir. You should not force a change of bylaws or zoning for the sole purpose of denying this woman her right to legally operate within the existing laws. Ms. Isaacs is suffering financial loss because of this whole limbo that you have her in. Is the city of Brampton are you guys here to kill businesses or encourage businesses? Are we here to encourage businesses or are we here to kill businesses? That's a question I want you to ask yourselves. Let's talk about seniors, retirees. They are the most quiet, loving, respectful citizens. Notwithstanding the fact that Miss Isaacs owns that house, she's not going to pack up and leave town. I promise you that. She's not going to do that. Now, my other question is, do you prefer her to rent this house? Because she's the rightful owner. She's the legal owner of this house. Would you prefer her to rent it to, let's say, hypothetically speaking, 4 rambunctious university students who's going to party all night on March break? Or would you prefer her to rent it up to seniors, retirees, respectable citizens, quiet, you won't even know they're there? I heard that there's rumors going around that, there's going to be a lot of traffic and so forth. That makes no difference whether she rents it to a family of 4 or seniors who most likely are not going to be driving. This whole situation, it's unethical what's happening, and that's why I'm here. So many fear tactics, rumors that they're spreading. And we all have seniors. We all have some seniors at home. My dad's a retiree. He's retired, worked for TTC for 30 years. He's retired now. Sometimes I tell him, I say, Dad, go somewhere. Get out of the house. Go. You know, he's a quiet guy. He stays home. You hardly know he's home. What is the issue here? There's a deeper issue that's going on here. And we will get to the bottom of it. Councillor Fortini, it is in your power, sir, to do the right thing. It is in your power. I know you're under a lot of pressure, but it's in your power to do the right thing. What side do you want to be on? Do you want to cost the city of Brampton millions in a lawsuit for holding this woman in limbo? Do the right thing, sir. As a matter of fact, I have 30 seconds. On my way upstairs in the elevator, I even took a picture of it. I saw this sign. It says courage, and another word that stood out to me, integrity. I had to take note of that. So, councillors, I'm asking you, act with integrity concerning this matter before you. Thank you very much.
Oh, there it is. Sir? Sorry, I didn't see it. There's a question. Councilor Santos.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Same question for you. Do you believe that are you opposed to seniors' homes and supporting seniors in the city of Brampton?
I'm not opposed to it,
Okay.
no.
Do you believe that the city councillors are actively trying to stop this application from moving forward for seniors' homes?
That's a good question. I believe they're under pressure by belligerent residents, disgruntled residents, who are coming up with a ton of excuses why it shouldn't be.
Okay. So do you believe that residents who live in the community should have a say about the issue and about what's happening in the neighborhood?
Absolutely. They should have a say, but you have to look at the heart of the matter. What is the intent of their heart behind all this?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, the previous delegates who live in the area said that they do support seniors' homes. They've given some examples of various infractions and shared some of their concerns as to why they wouldn't support this, but it doesn't certainly mean that they don't support seniors' homes at all. So I think that if you agree that residents who are living in the community where the seniors' home group home is going to be located, right now it's technically classified as a group home. Sure. Do you, again, I will ask, do you believe that the residents who are also here are worthy of being heard, especially from their councillors that represent them, about the issues that they have about this application?
Absolutely. Living in a democratic society, yes, they do.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, number 4, Jamie. Come on up. Maybe 5 minutes, so I give enough lead time to 2 people. So,
Sorry? I didn't hear that. Go again, please.
How much? 30 seconds.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for
Time's clicking.
thanks for allowing me. I hope you'll give me the same courtesies as you extended to the first speaker in this segment and allow me to speak. I won't be long, I promise you. My name is Jermaine Chambers. I'm a very active member of this community here in the city of Brampton. I also try my very best to help different groups organize so we can leave a lasting impact on our city. In my spare time, I also host a political and current affairs talk show program called On Point. It's great that I have the opportunity to come and speak with you today. I realize that at an interesting time. We're just about 1 year since you were elected. And I feel a little bit sad because you did not invite me to the celebration party you had a few weeks ago. Nonetheless, I saw the pictures online and I want to commend you on your 1-year anniversary. A year ago, the headlines in Brampton lit up. One headline, Brent, on October 23rd, Brampton politics in for big change. Another headline, time has finally come for the city's new leadership. Other headline talks about Brampton entering into uncharted waters. One person reflected on the fact that you all were elected, wrote, and I quote from him, quote, it says, we've elected 4 people of color, 6 urban progressives, and 4 new councillors. He continued to say, the results are clear. This council is younger and more diverse than the previous term and is quite frankly historic. We've elected our first black female councillor, first Filipino, and our first turban-wearing Sikh regional councillor. He went on to say, and this is I find rather interesting, he says, more importantly, we have now a majority of urban progressive bloc on Brampton City and Regional Council, with the election of Rona Santos, Paul Vicente, Gurpreet Dillon, Harkirat Singh, Pat Fortini, and Martin Madores. Sorry, Michael, they didn't include you in the progressive wing. And as I prepared to come and speak with you today, I found it a bit interesting because they said the previous old guard have fallen from 7 councillors to 3. Only Michael Poleshi, Doug Willans, and Jeff Bowman remained. hope. There was so much hope when this council was elected. And as I prepared to come and speak with you today, I had to call on my Christian faith. And I remembered when God looked out and he saw Lucifer, this bright, shining angel who had fallen. He exclaimed, "How art thou fallen, O Lucifer, thou son of the morning?" And I said, what has happened to this council? This council that there was so much hope for. You spent time fighting over whether slow down signs should be in neighborhoods for kids at play. You spent time renaming streets after your gods. You spent time weakening the accountability laws by wanting chairpersons to stay on for 4 years instead of 2 years. You spent, many on this council were critical of previous councils who went to small town Niagara Falls to find bureaucrats, but you have gone the same route. And I say, how have you fallen? And now the WAPA, the Progressive Council, who should come up with new ideas as to how we can address housing crisis in Brampton. When I campaigned, I met many seniors who were leaving Brampton because they say we simply cannot afford to live in Brampton anymore. And when I see the persons who 4 years ago were listed as the progressives were the ones who voted for this motion. And the ones who they consider to be non-progressive, Michael, Jeff, and others, abstained, and I commend you. How far have you fallen? So I encourage you to get back on track. I encourage you not to create areas of exclusivity in Brampton. You cannot create areas where you're saying to people, oh, you can't live here, or this area is not for you, you have to go somewhere else. We cannot create two Bramptons, one area for some and one area for others. It's wrong. I hear from this motion was passed that people are questioning, how did you get your mortgage?
It's almost done.
Just a minute. I'm finished.
I give lead time. The other
People are questioning this woman. A business woman has come forward.
Hold on. We're getting on track. We could talk about the group home. We want to hear the financials. That's private, and we shouldn't have to, I think, talk about that.
Fair enough.
Please.
But just 1 last minute. A woman, Mr. Chairman, a woman has come forward with a viable business plan. A woman who has been operating this business in this city for over 30 odd years, other businesses. And we are questioning this woman's ability to run a business in Brampton. I'm not sure how progressive that is. So finally, as I close, let us bear in mind, 10,300 votes is what it would take Tanisha Samuels to create change in this area. It can be done. It can be done.
Thank you.
10,300 votes. So I encourage you, do the right thing.
Thank you.
Any questions for me?
Councilor Santos.
Thank you, through you, Chair. To Jermaine, do you live on Hillside Drive?
No, I don't.
Okay. Do you think that it's part of the councillor's job to listen, to talk to residents who may have concerns or may be impacted by the group home being situated on Hillside Drive? Do you think it's part of our job to listen?
Well, let me back up a bit. First of all, I'm not sure of the relevance of the question in asking me where I live or if I live on Hillside Drive. Because what we're doing here is not just about Hillside Drive, but you're looking to change bylaws which would have impact across the city.
No.
So I think...
No, that's not true.
We haven't
I mean,
got
I
that
think
far
when...
yet.
So what I'm saying is...
So you're
no, but what I'm saying, whatever you do here...
We haven't got that far, and we shouldn't be debating.
So my question is...
What I'm saying, though, the situation would create precedents.
Please,
through you,
I'm
Chair.
responding to her question. Allow me to respond.
That's not necessarily related to the question.
You ask me a question, you have to allow me to respond. If you don't want me to respond, then you don't ask me a question.
Can I repeat the question?
Sorry?
Okay. Can I repeat the question?
Please repeat the question.
You want me to repeat the question? I'm going to give you an answer.
Yes, so I'll repeat the question. Do you think as counselors, it is part of our job to listen to not just the business perspective, but also the residents who live on Hillside Drive, their side and their concerns and issues.
I think it is your job to listen to all sides.
Okay, thank
I think
you.
it's your-
No further questions.
May I finish the answer?
That's right.
You don't want the answer?
Great answer.
You don't want the
All
answer?
sides.
Eh? No, if you ask me a question, you want me to answer, right?
Well, you give the great
Any
answer.
more
all
questions?
sides. So,
No more questions?
she'd ask no more questions.
10,300 votes.
Yes. How much did you get? So, sorry, number 5, it's Esther. She's the owner. Sorry. Esther? Huh? No. Yeah, she's coming up. Thank you, Esther. Please state your name. We're going to give only 5 minutes because we already give enough lead time to everyone. That's
Thank
5
you.
people. We're on the 6 now. Yes.
Good evening, Councillor, members of the Brampton Planning Development Community and audience. My name is Esther Isaacs. I'm the owner and operator of the soon-to-be licensed Rebeccaville Seniors Resident located at 23 Hillside Drive in the Bramley Woods area. I'm also the proud owner of Esterville Manor. I have never had a challenge in licensing that property. As I mentioned in my correspondence to you back in September, my home will accommodate 6 seniors in the atmosphere, care, and concern. My life's work has been to care for other people, but my passion and compassion is caring for seniors. As a healthcare professional, I saw the opportunity to help seniors living in Brampton who could not or would not be accommodated by other existing facilities in the continuum of care. My mission is to provide high-quality senior living in a home-like environment, an environment that is safe, comfortable, and feels like home to them. At the last Planning and Development Committee meeting, there were many untrue and unfounded accusations leveled at me and my home. Let me address a few of them for you. It was alleged by some that I had done structural renovations without a building permit. I purchased the home from the previous owner as is. The listing details and the photographs are still available online at 23hillside.com. People in the audience and at home can see it for themselves. To save you time and effort, I included those pictures in the letter I sent out back in September. As you can see, the home does not and did not require any renovation upon closing. At the last planning meeting, one of the councillors suggested that the home would not be safe for a 75 years old resident if there was a fire. I can assure you that the home will meet all fire and building code requirements prior to getting a license from the RHRA. I have invested and ordered a sprinkler system, and we are waiting on the city to issue the permit. It has been alleged that it is my goal to get a group home license for seniors and that I will quickly turn the home into a group home for black youth. This dog whistle tactics was used to secure signatures from neighbors on a petition to oppose my license. I am a nurse first. I'm a Christian. I am a chaplain, a spiritual care minister. And I do not have anything against group homes for youth. I believe young people are a gift from God and need care and attention, especially when they are facing trauma or life challenges. But that's not my plan, nor is it the business that I'm in. I will let you judge for yourself what that specific tactic was used for. Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, I want to tell you that the delay created by motion and reports on an application for which you have no decision has not gone unnoticed by the community. The decision to allow retirement home in Brampton neighborhood was one that City Council made a long time ago. After years on City Council, not one of you lifted a finger to make changes. My purchase of a home and my application for a Type 1 group home for seniors is based on the rules that this body had created for everyone to follow. The question that people have to ask themselves is, what is so different about this application that you seek to change the rules for the entire city of Brampton? Every lawyer in the city will tell you, you cannot retroactively change the rules. But more importantly, the city of Brampton has a shortage of hospital beds, and my retirement home is part of that solution. Councillor Fatini's motion will simply reduce the number of homes that can be used for retirement beds and put more of them, the resident, in neighborhood like Bramley Woods. If you proceed with your plan to change the rules, it will not affect my property. I live here and I care about my community, and more importantly, I care about the seniors who have built those communities.
We're on the 7 minutes.
You are using a hammer to swat a fly. And in doing so, you end up in hitting a hornet's nest that will cause more pain to people sitting in the hallway right now at Brampton Hospital. Do not let seniors down because a small group of neighbors have been misled by a small-minded, heartless person. For those of you who have not seen the home or had the opportunity to visit, I would like to play a video for you. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You want the video? Is that what I heard? You want to play the video now? Go ahead. Oh. Thank you. So, we have a question. We have a question. Councillor Palashi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Esther, for coming before us tonight. Esther, just sorry, I have a couple questions.
Okay.
Just of clarification. One, in relation to some of the, something I heard about renovations, that you had done some renovations, and you had touched on it in your delegation, but can I just ask you, Blayton, if you don't mind, have you done any renovations to the house since the spring?
I have not, except for the fire sprinkler. We hired a company to put the fire sprinkler in. After they started on the first day, Donna asked, "Where is the permit? We haven't seen you put up the permit." And he said that they will send us a copy. By the next morning, I hadn't received it. So I called again. I said, "We would like to have it because we need to put it on the window."
Mm-hmm.
And then he said he'll get it to us. And by noon, by around 11 o'clock, we didn't hear from them. And Donna said, "We need it right now." And then he called us back and said that they didn't get the permit, but it's in the works. So Donna came and said to them, "You got to pack up and leave right now." So that was put on hold.
Okay. So it's still going through the process?
It is still going through the process.
Okay. And do you have timelines on that process as of now?
Well, what happened is we're doing a change of use, and when we spoke to the city, they told us instead of doing two separate things, put them all together. So that's what we're doing. The architect is currently making the drawings for the change of use, and they said that they will just do an adjustment and put it all in one.
To try and make it a little bit
Yes.
easier? Okay. So that covers my second question about the sprinklers, but I did have, there was a delegate that said there were some infractions. Can you speak to some of those infractions? Were any of them to do with safety?
The infractions over there, what happens is when you open a home, then there are specific policies that you have to have.
Mm-hmm.
So even though you have those policies and it's not the policies from ORCA, they call it infractions, but you do have to have policies. So what you'll have to do is to get the ORCA ones and customize it to the home.
Okay. Okay. Thank you again for coming.
You're
Thank
very
you, Mr.
welcome.
Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Palashi.
Thank you.
Thank you. So next one is, oh, sorry, there's one more. Sorry, Councillor Santos.
Yes. Thank you, through you, Chair. And I remember last year knocking on one of your homes in wards 1 and 5, and it was embraced by the community. And I know that the residents who have the home in wards 2 and 6 also embraced by the community. What happens with the business when perhaps in a neighborhood like Hillside, residents have concerns and issues and perhaps don't necessarily want the application to proceed? Like, does it cause tension in the neighborhood? Does it cause tension amongst the residents and the businesses and the business itself?
I'm going to answer to what I think you're asking. But for me, I don't do tensions. I believe if they're concerned, we can talk about it, we can settle it. I don't feel uncomfortable in Hillside, if that's what you're asking. I'm very comfortable in Hillside. I still, although there are things happening, when I see the neighbors, I still wave to them. And they don't answer, but it doesn't stop me because that's the way I am.
And through you, Chair, I hear you. It's just we here on council are faced with a bit of a situation where residents do have concerns in the neighborhood, and we have to also respectfully respect those concerns and issues as well.
I agree.
But at the same time, you have successfully operated businesses elsewhere throughout the city of Brampton. So thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 6, Donna? Sorry, Steve? Stevie, can you sit? Allison? Allison, please.
Good evening, councillors. My name is Allison Brown, and I've asked to speak on this issue. I am a resident, a longtime resident of Brampton. I hope to add some value to this conversation this evening. Can I get some clarity, please, around, I heard as I was sitting up on my seat there, that this bylaw was approved 4 years ago?
That's from staff.
Can I get some clarity around that? Is that correct? So the bylaw was approved 4 years ago. So I'm trying to understand so that I
Did
can.
staff answer that? Never heard of it. Sorry. Sorry.
So
Can we
the-
get staff, sorry, let's get staff to answer that. Make
Oh,
sure.
staff?
So through the chair, the last amendments to the group homes, I think were 2007, were the last times the zoning bylaws were updated. They may be speaking to the registration of a previous application for registration, but in terms of our bylaws, they were, I believe it's 2007. Oh, yeah, last update, so 2007.
So can I just ask if they had, for Rebeccaville, if they had met the standards for the pass of the bylaw? Okay, so I'm kind of shaking my head because I'm just a regular everyday person, and I'm kind of not understanding if it was approved 4 years ago, why are we here today?
It was not, sorry, this, I think you're talking another application. This was not approved 4 years ago. This is a new application.
So this is a brand-new application?
Yes. This says.
Well, it couldn't have been approved, excuse me.
So, guys, let's not debate on this. This is a brand-new application. That one there was, in 2007, was a different application compared to this one here.
Okay, through the chair, sorry, I have a bit of a cold. This application for 23 Hillside was received in the summer of this year for review.
That's right.
So as a group home coordinator, what we do is we review it against the current bylaw, which is in place, that has been in place since 1982 in terms of the administration requirements. And there have been amendments that have been made through the past several years, but in early 2000, about 2007 was the last one. And it was just to update the separation distance, like there's some certain requirements that were needed updated to reflect current standards. So those were made, and what we do is we just follow the process. So when 23 Hillside comes in, or any of the applications, as staff, we review it to make sure everything's in conformity with what's in existence, and then guide the operator of the home through the process.
So has she met the requirements since August?
According to the requirements that are outlined, yes.
She has met the requirements for...
Well, what's outstanding right now is getting the license from the RHRA, the Retirement Home Regulatory Authority, and also through building to get the change of use, and also the fire sprinkler that was discussed. So
Okay.
she followed all the other requirements.
So
that
she's
were required
followed
to process.
everything, and we're just waiting on those 3 outstanding items for her to
On
get
those items, yes.
the home going. Okay. So I am a registered nurse. I have been for the last 30 years. From what I'm hearing, I see an entrepreneur here in Brampton who is filling a need. I'm going to read, if you would just give me a few minutes here, article that was written by Christine Elliott, our Minister of Health. So she stated that between 2011 and 2018, the number of long-term care beds increased to 0.8%, from 78,000 plus to 78,664. While the number of patients aged 75 and above grew by 20%, basically what they're saying is that that has not kept up with the long-term care homes. So here we have a registered nurse, an entrepreneur, a woman who there's professionalism by the College of Nurses and functions within the professional standards of the nursing. Minister Elliott also said the province is trying to tackle the backlog of creating 30,000 new long-term care beds over the next 10 years, including 15,000 beds over the next 5 years. The Financial Accountability Office also took note that this is a very serious issue and that we are basically in a healthcare crisis for seniors, which has resulted in hallway medicine. So what Ms. Isaacs is doing is really filling a need, a very great need. We talk about it needing another hospital in Brampton. Here's somebody who's taken, we're not waiting for government to fix an issue. Here's somebody taking the issue right into her hands and trying to make a difference in the community.
So you're way over the 5 minutes. And
Pardon?
You're over the 5 minutes.
I'm over 5 minutes? Okay.
So please, we give
Well, thank
everyone
you
the
for the opportunity. I hope I
just
added
wanted
some
to ask-
value
can I ask
to the
you-
conversation, and it seems
Quick
like
question.
she's got her ducks in a row.
So I'd like to ask you a question, please.
You want to ask me a question?
Whichever you-
Sure.
So I understand our hospital is in need, and Christine Elliott does that, but I don't see her giving us funding for our third or second hospital.
Okay, so as a counselor, right, so as a counselor,
second, it's
you've
not-
got to push for that, but this woman, she's creating, there is a gap, and she's creating an opportunity where seniors, residents, retirement homes are very expensive, extremely expensive. I teach long-term care legislation in my day job, and we have a real crisis on our hands. So when an individual in the community decides not to wait on government for our own tax dollars to be distributed in our community, we have individuals who take a step to create business. Okay?
I'm not gonna go, we won't go back and forth. I know like the retirement home at the Holiday Inn. It's like
Pardon?
At the retirement home we have at the Holiday Inn.
Yes,
That is a retirement home.
yes.
This is a group home. We're
So
comparing apples to
so the
orange.
difference is, this is there are a lot of lonely studies of elderly people being alone. This is another way where elderly people can be housed, where they're not paying $5,000 to $10,000 a month.
They're paying
If
five.
you have
They're paying
been
5 here.
working for a long time and your company went bankrupt and you don't have the funds to pay for a retirement home or even long-term care home where you're going to be subsidized by the government, this is a huge opportunity where within a community, you still have people that can check in on you in the community, service, whatever services they're offering. And I just want to talk about the infractions.
Well, no,
Just a quick thing,
we
because
went
I am
way
in the
over. It's 9
business.
minutes
For
now.
those
I
people
just
that
asked you a
talk
question.
about infractions, infractions are fixed. So you get inspectors to go in. If there's something not right, you have a time frame in which you can rectify the situation, but you're always maintaining the safety of the resident.
We're not delegating on inspection stuff. It has nothing to do with us.
Well, someone said that she had infractions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So,
okay.
can I have a motion? Thank you, everyone, for delegating. Can I have a motion? She doesn't want to come up. She said no. So can I have a motion to receive all the delegations, please? Well, we couldn't skip because other people wanted to go last.
Pardon me?
And-
There was one person who wanted to speak. You
Well,
want to go
we-
speak? No, it's okay.
No, go ahead, Donna, sorry. Yeah, I thought you didn't want to speak because we put Allison in front of you. I thought you said no.
No, I would have waited last.
Well, we
In
can't
order
put
to
others
clear.
last.
Pardon me?
Okay,
To
we have to
clear.
go in order. I'm sorry.
And
Go
that's
ahead.
fine. That's
Go ahead.
fine.
Give you 5 minutes, and whoever's coming up, no more than 5 minutes, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair, this is the last delegation that was added to the agenda, so if committee wishes to hear other delegations, they're going to have to reopen its agenda.
So we're not going to reopen. What we'll do is, any questions and everything, they can send it to staff, because I think we heard enough. It's the same. We had you way before. Now, I thought you weren't coming up, so we're going to allow you to speak now, okay? And we'll give you only 5 minutes, please.
City Council, planning members, staff, Mr. Chairman, spectators in the gallery, good evening. My name is Donna Anglin. Esther Isaac is a proud owner of Estherville Retirement Home here in Brampton. Esther has acquired a license over the past 4 years. Esther and I together, jointly, has gotten our license and to run residential retirement home. We've come to the city of Brampton and have gone through the entire process. I've heard people talking about infractions on RHRE, just education for everyone. When you start a retirement home, there are policies, and especially residential, and we're registered nurses, we don't know what we're getting into. We join an association called ORCA, and you get templates and stuff. When the inspector comes in 6 months after, they'll ask, let's see your policy. The policies are right there. What an inspector wants to see is the home-specific policy, not a generalized policy. If that's not in place, they will write you up. And if you go on the same website that the other speakers came to talk about and to spread propaganda and negativity on Estherville, if you go onto Chartwell, if you would walk in on the same Brampton Holiday Inn and you look at their website, you will see the very same infractions. So it's not exclusive to Estherville. In January of this year, she received an email from the planning department, and it reads, our GIS technicians confirm that your group home type 1 inquiry for the above noted address passed both the separation distance and planning area capacity tests, and that was sent from Mirella. Now, she met with Councillor Fortini and Councillor Williams, and as I said before, on September 9th, you gave her your grace and everything was okay. You later stated, Councillor Fortini, that you did not know what kind of residents that were going. I'm still not understanding what that means, because we are 65 years and over, it's retirement. As per the provincial license, you have 2 licenses. You get a license from the province to operate the home, which is under RHRA, and you also get a municipal license. For every home, a group home has to be either under the Ministry of Long-Term Care or under social development for foster homes or stuff like that, for group homes, but they require 2 licensing. Hence, we're here for that. There was no problem when she applied for the license for Estherville Manor, and I'm still asking the question, why are we here? Why are we here when we're talking about whole-way medicine? When we're talking about Brampton being the fastest growing community with more beds, critical care beds that are tied up with seniors. We're talking about a wonderful neighborhood like Bramley Woods. Why not Bramley Woods? Why Northwood Park? And why not Bramley Woods? Equal across the board. There's no one here that has extra privilege more than the other. Now, when the letter went out in order to invite the neighbors, I went, and in order to create a cohesive bond with us and the neighbors, I did a pre-meeting. Al was the first person who said he wanted no home for profit there. And 2 doors over on our side, there's a resident who operates a business there. The home that now 23 Hillside Drive was licensed for a business. So I don't understand the hypocrisy coming in here saying we don't want businesses in our neighborhood. There are tons of businesses on Hillside Drive. Now, my question to Councillor Fortini, why are we changing the group home policy now? Is it because of the location of the property? Is it because of elitism? Is it because the owner of Hillside Drive is of color? What would it be, Mr. Fortini? Why the change in the group home policy and it never happened in 4 years? What is the reason now? At the time when Brampton is experiencing a healthcare crisis with hallway medicine, presently there are 36,245 seniors waiting for long-term care bed in the province, and the number keeps growing daily. What is it? What are we doing, councillors? We should be here talking about escalating retirement homes for seniors to clear the critical care beds so that we can have, if one of us in here, a family member, have basically a medical emergency, those persons who should be at 23 Hillside Drive in order to help that person who's in a medical crisis. We are blocking that bed. What are we going to do in terms of what do you want history to say of all of you councillors
You're
here?
on 6
What would you
minutes now.
want history
Okay.
to speak of you?
Okay, good. I have some questions.
Yes.
So, can I be heard? So, when we met, I said I was in favor of it only if the residents were okay. I had no issue. But I said, I know the house very well before it was purchased. I've done work there. There's bedrooms in the basement. We have to make sure there's a second exit, make sure there's a fire route, the sprinkler system has to be too cold. We're getting calls all the time on these basement apartments, and I don't want to get more calls. Hillside is facing with 4 already illegal group homes we're taking to court. And now we're going to put another one. So if the residents are okay and we follow the second exit and all these bylaws, all the fire code and the building codes, I don't see if there would be a problem. But when we have all the residents and we put them in a basement, I have a problem with that with seniors. I would not put my father in a basement. I want to know how much are they charging per senior for this home, per senior?
No, we're not talking about, that's
Well,
not.
you said they're
No,
hold on.
no.
If you're gonna-
I'm sorry,
please.
Mr. Fortini. Mr. Fortini,
You said they're
you asked me a
senior
question?
home. Please, you said senior home are expensive. I want to know how much a senior's paying at this home.
Well, seniors are basically paying what they can afford.
So
What
you're not giving
seniors
me amount.
afford, no, they're not government funded. And to address your question, you asked
So
me a question,
I'm
Mr.
going
Fortini.
I'm going along with the
Mr.
building codes
Fortini?
legislation. If it was a senior home and it follows the provincial guidelines and you need 10 people and full-time staff, we wouldn't be here today.
Okay, Mr. Fortini, I think
So-
you're misinformed,
okay,
and
so
you've
I'm not
asked
gonna
me a
go back
question.
and- back
Could
and
you
forth.
allow me to answer your question? You have asked me a question, and you're saying that you want to make sure the regulations are okay in order for a senior 75-year-old person to think. In order to do the registration, the fire department comes in. There are the windows in that home, which is a side split, are already approved by the fire department. They must be 3 by 3 because they are used as an egress, a means of escape should there be an emergency. And that's already been passed by the fire department. So I don't understand your issue. So all these issues that you're talking about, having an extra door, the fire department will clearly tell you, if you do not have 2 exits from that building, you must have all windows measuring 3 by 3 to create an exit.
Anyway, okay.
And that
I'll
has
stop you
been
there.
met by the
Thank you so
home.
much. So can I have a motion? Thank you so much. Can I have a motion?
I'm sorry.
Can I have a motion to delegate? Can I have?
Because we need more long-term care, we need more retirement homes in Brampton. So there were some signage here, and I just want to pass it over to,
No more delegations. So I'm going to add no more delegations to this because I know you're from Hillside. We're just going to stop the delegations from what else we're going to carry on over and over. Can- So, can I have a motion can I have a motion, guys, for delegations, for all the delegations? Councillor Palashi or Councillor Wellens? Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Okay. So, we need another motion for the staff report. I think we're gonna have, there was a motion prepared by staff. What was it? Councillor Palashi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of questions to staff. There were some talking about about fire or fire-related inspections. I just wanted to know, does fire have any issues currently with the house? And does it need a second exit?
To the chair, our CBO will answer that question for us.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Excuse me, Councillor Palashi, I can't
I can't definitively answer that question. We haven't yet seen plans submitted for the change of use for the building. I know that Ms. Isaacs had mentioned that she has an architect currently working on drafting something. So until that comes forward, I can't comment. I haven't been inside the building personally, so I would have to wait to see what the architect proposes in terms of the existing construction and any required construction as a result of the change of use.
So just to confirm then, there's been some talks about the house requiring a second exit. Do we know if the house requires a second exit as of right now?
Through you, Mr. Chair. As of right now, the house is classified as, under the building code, what's called a Group C dwelling, which is essentially a single-family dwelling. A single-family dwelling does not require 2 exits, it only requires 1. If the change of use of the building is in fact to a B3 occupancy or a CARE occupancy under the building code, there would be a requirement for secondary exit.
Okay. And as for the windows and the window size, as of right now, do we know, and just if you can state basically what you've already stated, if the if the larger windows accommodates fire inspections, do we normally see something like that?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Anything that would be related to a fire inspection would be a requirement under the Fire Prevention and Protection Act, which may differ in terms of requirements from the Ontario Building Code based on retroactive applicability of the requirements. Having said that, a window in a residential occupancy is typically used as a secondary means of egress, but does not meet the definition of an exit under the Ontario Building Code. So if 2 exits were required, it would have to be something that was on vertical hinges like a door that would allow an occupant to escape. The secondary means of egress is typical for say a second unit where you have a single family living in there. There's one main exit, and then the window is an emergency means of egress.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Esther, I did want to let you know, I have been to the home in our area, and when Councillor Willens and I went, I think I can speak on behalf of both of us, we loved every minute of it, and talking to the residents that were there, they loved every minute of it. And I think I told you this story at the time. So my granny was in a home in one of the big, seniors' homes, and she was the only one to ever break out of that seniors' home. She was going through dementia, and she was able to do it 7 times. And I said to you, I think at the time, that if she was there, I don't believe she would have ever been able to break out of that home. I felt it very safe for the seniors in the house that you have in the area we represent. I know you. I've been able to sit down and chat with you and get to know you a little bit. And so often, sometimes it's difficult for residents if they don't know, because it's the unknown. And unfortunately, we live in a world where sometimes people say things, and it happens to members of council all the time, where they bring forward something, and unfortunately it doesn't go that course, that direction, and people tend to change their minds and then not bring forward something to the effect of what the community likes or what the community needs. And I think our bylaw, and as outdated as it is, it does need to be refreshed, much like I think a lot of our bylaws. And I talked a little bit about it last time. When we review bylaws here at the City of Brampton, it's difficult because everything has to stop. We can't approve or do anything with anything because of the challenges and the losses that the City of Brampton could then face through court action. So I'm always going to be a supporter progression and doing things right and updating. But I do here stand or sit today to say that I love the home that you guys run in areas we represent. We don't have any complaints, and I'd love to come back and visit another time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bowman.
Back on. No, I tried to get up.
Councillor Bowman.
Thank you very much through you, Mr. Chair. This is a tough decision that this council has to make. There's the residents who, as elected officials, we have to represent and respect, and there's business people who we also have to support when the need arises for businesses. The area that I am having difficulty with, and I'm not 100% sure on, is the fact that we're here talking and sometimes arguing about a group home, seniors residence. I don't know what exactly we're calling it. I don't know what exact rules it needs to follow. And as of right now, even our chief building inspector is sort of unsure where the building is in terms of its readiness to move forward with any proposal. So that's what I'm trying to grapple with here, that, you know, we're talking about changing bylaws, we're talking about changing to meet provincial guidelines because Brampton hasn't kept up with provincial guidelines. And we're talking about a home that we honestly don't know if it's ready to move forward yet. I would feel much more comfortable myself if we had the fire and we had our building inspector go through the building, come back to us and say, here is exactly what needs to be done. And if we know exactly what needs to be done, then I think this council has more information to work with. I also think that with only 6 members of council here, this is something that all of council should be voting on, not just the 6 of us here. I don't want to put a deferral on the floor. No, I don't want to. But I'm very uncertain as to where the process can go from here, and if we can even ask for updated inspections so we know exactly what's going on. And the city solicitor is looking at me, so I don't know whether you've got any comment on that, whether we can do that.
So, through the chair, that you're asking more procedural questions than anything else. The report that you have before you is really just an information report. The only recommendation that you see there is to receive the report. If there's anything beyond that that wants to be that council wants to, or sorry, that committee wants to consider, then that's something that committee should put forward.
Okay, so we're not in a position right now where we're voting to say yes, this is a go, or no, this is not a go. We're accepting a report, and we're accepting the information in the report. From here, we can ask for more information at a future meeting before the plans even come into our planning department. Is that true?
Through the chair, just to clarify, the application process for group homes does not go through council for approval. It's delegated authority through the province. So all we are doing when we get those applications is go through and make sure that the things that I think we all want to make sure are in place. Once those are in place, then we provide that assurance that the application meets the current zoning bylaw and has met the other requirements, fire, building, and then the actual certification is issued by the province through the authority.
Okay, because I think over and above everything, I think everybody here, we're concerned about safety. And we're concerned about the safety of seniors, and we're concerned about the safety of all residents, and that's my mainstay. That's what I've always been interested for, whether it's a home, a lodging house, a group home, an illegal or legal basement apartment non-conforming. So as long as we are certain that everything meets code. And again, everybody understands that this city council is not making the decision to license or do not license. That's a provincial decision. We're in a position where we simply accept the report and things move forward, and more findings are found and more reports are written before a report goes to the province. So it's, you know, if we're in a position here where we're just accepting the report, I don't have an issue with that. But again, my concern is safety of everybody. So if we've got assurances from our building department and fire's not here, that those things will be first and foremost on any report, I'm fine with that. Thanks.
Thank you. I just have some questions for staff. So these old bylaws, how long have they been in place? 1993?
Through the chair, the first bylaw was written in 1982, I believe, outlining the requirements. So as the province moved forward to, I guess, the institutionalization of individuals that need assistance, they moved forward with a manual to develop group homes and outline the requirements. And then it's been updated through the past in terms of updating the definitions and the public notification requirements to the residents for an open house, just for information purposes.
Okay. So has the building codes and fire codes have changed from then till now, that we have to look into these new policies?
Through you, Mr. Chair, or to you, Mr. Chair, the building codes have changed several times over since the initial implementation of the bylaw, yes.
One more question. Are we looking into these bylaws? We haven't started now. We've been looking into the bylaws and policy already going back. I think it was about 8 months. So we're trying to look at all the bylaws and all the procedures across the city on everything, not just the group homes.
That's correct. We have a comprehensive zoning bylaw review underway. Now, council's also directed that we specifically look at the supportive housing provisions and line those up with some of the changes in provincial policy. And so we're going to actually take those out and accelerate those faster than the overall comprehensive zoning bylaw. So that is something that council directed within the last month, and that's something that will get underway before the end of the year.
Okay, and that's what I was trying to say. It's not something over just this one. We're looking at all of them because we have so many type of group homes. We've got people complaining, well, there's 3 families there and they're paying the same property tax, illegal basements. So we already started this 8 months ago. It's not something we started now. So it's not over Hillside. It's also, we're looking at all to go across the municipality and all the bylaws. So before I put the motion forward, Councilor Pleshy has a question. Thank you.
Just one further question, thank you, Mr. Chair, to staff. Does the region play any part in this? Do they comment on any applications?
Through the chair, no, they don't provide. It's not part of the process. They provide their comments. We're just registering, making sure that they comply with our requirements. They register. We just, as a group home coordinator, we just make sure the registration requirements are fulfilled. And there's not a requirement to review it through the region.
Okay. And then currently, the application is going through the process. Is it being held at any point? Or is it still continuing down the process?
Through the chair. So the application, we've received it. It's continuing to be processed. There's obviously, as Chief Building Official Rick has indicated, there's some back and forth in terms of getting clarity on exactly what needs to happen. We're just waiting for that revised application to clarify what work's being proposed to facilitate the change of use.
Right, okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I just want to ask one more question before. How many people live in Hillside here, around the area? I think some have left already. Okay, I think we have a motion prepared, staff. Can we put it on the screen, please? No, we're not going to ask no more delegations. Yeah, I think there's a motion that staff's been working on. Okay, so the motion's on the board. Okay, and it's coming back for the November 18th planning meeting.
We don't have it on the screen.
Oh, the screens are not on, sorry. Here, look at this one. All the screens are off. turns it off. Okay, it's up here. Oh, there it comes on now. Thank you. Councilor Santos, second. So the motion's on the board, so I have to ask for a vote. All in favor of the motion?
Sorry, I have a question.
Oh, sorry, Councilor Palacio.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're just seeing this for the first time. I'm just wondering, I'm wondering what the interpretation is of this motion. What does it actually mean with what we're dealing with here today on this item?
Well, through the chair, I believe the council's motion is intended to put a hold on applications for future group home or supportive living, supportive housing applications while the review goes on. So I think that's the intent. We hadn't contemplated using an ICBL for the process that we've got underway, but if that's something council wishes to consider, we can certainly incorporate that as part of the process.
So I typically don't like ICBLs. I find that sometimes they're too broad sometimes, and they inhibit the ability for people to do things that what we find is we put an ICBL kind of at the whim, like I guess what we're looking at here, and then we have people down the road that come and delegate. We're like, oh, we kind of didn't think about that, and then we trim an ICBL to go around their property or something like that. Like so. Does this affect any current applications that are before staff under review, or is this for anything thereafter?
So the intent of an ICL would be for future applications that come in. For specifics on exactly where things are at in the process, that's probably a legal question at this point.
I don't know if legal heard you.
So through the chair, if I could just clarify as well. So this motion would have a report brought forward, prepared and brought forward to the next planning committee. Planning committee cannot adopt or approve an ICBL.
Yeah.
So what this would do would be to allow staff, because the report that you have before you currently is not about an ICBL, it's about an update for 23 Hillside. And so before before planning committee were to consider taking such a step, I think it would be appropriate for staff to prepare a report to advise council as to what the implications of such a step would be. The other part of that would be an ICBL has different things, as you were referencing, in terms of what are the extent of the restrictions in terms of the ICBL. Are we restricting everything? From a city perspective, are you freezing the entire city? Would you be freezing just a portion of the city? So there are a number of things that need to be considered. So what this motion would do would allow staff to bring a report to the next planning committee, where you would have a more fulsome membership of the committee available to take a look at it, and then consider whether you wanted to go forward. And if there were tweaks to be had, and council or committee, decided that they wanted to move forward with an ICBL, perhaps some additional direction could be provided to staff before it was enacted by council, let's say on the 20th. So it gives us a little bit of time, not very much. But this is not making a decision about an ICBL. This is just asking staff to bring back a report on what that would look like.
Okay, so staff be directed to bring up a report, and you're going to work with the mover of the motion to kind of tailor it to see, what that kind of looks like. Okay.
Councilor Singh?
No, sorry, I'm still just formulating here. So what I'm hearing though is that it's any future applications, once council has made a decision. Any applications that are currently in the process, if council decides to put an interim control bylaw, does this affect that application?
So through the chair, I'm going to pass on answering that question. Okay, in that, exactly, because I am the lawyer for the city, and it would be foolish for me to do otherwise in open session. But beyond that, when we bring, if it was the will of committee to say, okay, bring forward this report, advise us accordingly, answers to those sorts of questions are exactly what we would be looking at, and we would be able to advise committee at that time as to what the implications would be, whether it's for everything that has not yet been approved, whether it would impact on applications that are in process, and so on.
So that's the level of detail that will come back. So then would it be appropriate for us to attach this to the staff report, move receipt of the staff report, have this as a kind of a number 2, or is this a separate motion because it's has really not much to do with the staff report? And does an interim control bylaw need public consultation? And have we had interim control bylaws that have had public consultation in the past?
So through the chair, typically interim control bylaws are done almost like on an emergency type basis. So they don't have the same public consultation type requirements as you would normally have, for example, for some of the items that you had on the agenda today. Official plan, zoning, subdivision, that sort of thing. But all of that, as I say, can be brought forward with that report should committee wish to consider that. And, and this motion as well, I take I take your point in that the report that you have right now is just an update. An ICBL or consideration of something like that really is not specific to an individual file and shouldn't be. And so I think there's merit to keeping this motion separate and apart from the recommendations that you see with the report.
Okay. So I know you put the motion forward, Councilor Fortini, when it's appropriate. I'm happy to move the staff report. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilor Singh.
Yeah, just it was a lot to digest today, and I want to thank all the delegations for coming out. I was actually looking forward to moving a deferral because I believe there should be members of council here, and particularly because the area councilors, and they have valid reasons, but I feel it's only fair that everybody is here. So I was going to ask for deferral, but if Councilor Fortini has asked for more information and this moves the decision on to November 18th, I think that is appropriate, given that other members of council can also be here. I hear everybody, I recognize the contention, and I think it's that big of an issue that many members of council should be here. So because of that, I will support this motion. It's just asking for more updates. No decision has been made, and most likely a decision will be made on November 18th, where attendance will be better and we can do what's best for the city. So I will be supporting this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions to staff. I'd like to address Councilor Peleshi's questions. Interim control bylaw, we just put one in. Do they have to go through a certain procedure, public hearing and all, on the four corners down here, the downtown? We have another one on the Bramley Hub. Did we do a control bylaw there? Did we have a consultation by staff, by public? Or was it just put in the night of planning?
So through the chair, we have had a number of interim control bylaws in force for studies or other things where the permissions that are there would result in something that is undesirable, and that's the point, is to put that specific type of development on hold while we review it. There is a process, of course, to go through it, but it doesn't involve public consultation. There isn't a statutory public hearing. It is something that comes, I think, as our solicitor said, fairly quickly. That's the intent behind it.
And this motion, if someone comes and we follow the provincial guidelines that says you need 10 people and a full-time staff, this will not affect group homes, or, senior living homes, because it falls under another category.
So one of the things we can do is when we come back is talk about the scope. I think as it is here, the review that we're doing would include all the supportive housing, and so depending on where council committee decides to go, we could scope it accordingly. If it was to line up with the review, it would put a freeze on all supportive living homes while they're under review.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
So, based on this motion that's up here, the review that we have underway now is supportive living, supportive housing. So it's looking at all of the supportive housing policies. So if it was to line up with the review, we would put a freeze on accepting applications for supportive housing. We hadn't contemplated doing that under the route that we're going down. We don't receive that many applications, and we generally would want to see them go forward if they do come in. There are opportunities, though, should council want to explore doing an ICBL, that we can scope that in a more limited way. But it does require more administration and more time. So that's some of the things that can go into the report.
So we'll get more on the report. But we started this already about 7-8 months ago. It's not something we started now. We, as a council, said, let's review all the group home, all the policies, everything from 7-8 months ago.
We've had the comprehensive zoning bylaw review underway for a while
Thank you.
now. This specific direction to undertake the review of the supportive housing policies came, I think, within the last month.
Okay, thank you. So the motion's on the floor? Huh? Yeah, actually, can I have to receive of the report, Councillor Palashi, and also correspondence of 10.1. All in favor? And now we're back to the motion on the floor. All in favor of the motion? Good. It's carried. So we're back to referred matters. Thank you, everyone. So we're down here, minutes to address consent motion item, which we'll address. Referred matters, we don't have any from the referred matters list. Here's a closed session, nothing, sorry? Yeah. So I'm going to make the clerk explain what happened.
So through you,
it's
Mr.
clear.
Chair, so just for the members of the public in the audience, so committee has passed the motion, the one that was on the screen, that is directing staff to report back at the November 18th Planning and Development Committee meeting. That is a scheduled 1 o'clock meeting. And on the potential implementation of an interim control bylaw to restrict supportive housing. And the recommendations from that committee meeting, just as the recommendations from tonight's committee meeting, will be going to City Council on November 20th for ratification and approval. So that's when City Council will be making its final decision on this matter.
Thank you. Okay, now we got councillor correspondence. Councillor question period. Any councillor have any questions? One, seeing. Councillor Palashi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to staff. So I'm not 100% clear, and I know we took a vote there last time with the review. If any long-term bed applications come to the city of Brampton right now today, are they being put through the process, or are they being stopped to go through the review?
Through you, through the chair, absolutely, as it is currently, we are accepting all applications. They're going through the regular processes. That wouldn't change through the course of the review until we adopt new policies, which then would apply to future applications.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Done? Thank you. So we have public question period. Anybody from the public wants to ask questions, please come down. Come on down.
There's somebody here already.
Go ahead. State your name, please. Sorry, state your name.
Warren Hartz. I was a speaker at the last meeting. When I came in and saw my name was up there, I registered to speak. I wasn't allowed to speak, so I'd like to ensure that I'm allowed to speak at the next meeting.
At the next meeting?
Will I be allowed to speak at the next meeting? Because I don't understand why it wasn't tonight other than the time. I appreciate your time. No, I
You're just asking.
I'm not gonna,
So it's a clarification. You're asking to come next meeting to speak.
well, I'm asking to ensure that I'm on.
Yeah.
Now, at the last meeting, we were to get a copy of a report. We were understanding that nothing was going to proceed us through as far as approval of the building permits or such before we got that report.
Okay, so staff
That's what I understood from the last meeting. Right, so staff was gonna issue a report based on the classification of the building, where it stood, whether it was a senior's home, whether it was this or that, and how it applied to the City of Brampton's bylaws. Obviously, we see a big
So
disparity
we'll let
between.
staff reply. I think it's Morello, sorry.
Through the chair, yes, we addressed the requirements of the group home process through this information report. If you're referring to something in particular, like in terms of what was discussed at the open house, in terms of the question.
No, you sent me the minutes of the open house, but at the
Yes.
last meeting, we were told that we would get a report back based on the questions asked at last because they couldn't be answered in the meeting.
Okay,
Right,
well,
they had to look up and-
we could, so the group home operator, in terms of, she outlined, there were specific questions about, I think, 4 or 5? Are those?
Well, about
That could be
seniors
attached
home,
to the next.
Whether it was a group home, they were all different things brought up about the legislation, most of it provincial, and how our bylaws, how it was, decision was made to give it as a group home and what classification in the group home.
That was outlined in this report, but I can also provide correspondence from the whole group home operator that it kind of explains the type of clientele that is there in the operation, if that's what's requested. But I could provide all the details of outlining the actual hillside application are outlined in the information report, unless there's additional information requested.
I think you're asking for the minutes from the last meeting.
Well, not the minutes from the last meeting. They were supposed to be, because some certain questions weren't answered by the planning department and how this was assessed.
So,
Like
just to
whether it was.
clarify, this report was in response to that referral, to that request for additional information. So that was this report. That's what it was prepared.
Okay, so are we to get that then? As
Can we
guest
get that,
speakers,
sorry?
we were listed to get them last time I understood.
Can we get the report emailed to him? then?
Yeah, we can certainly do that. It's up on the
I know you
city's
took care of the
website.
other one, so
Yeah,
that's
so
why
we
I
can
know I
get-
asked for the
Yeah,
other
we can
report, so
distribute that to
I
you
appreciate
directly.
that.
Yeah.
And make sure he's on the.
Because I was on the distribution list by being a speaker last time I understood, so I should just get them automatically.
Once before, so he's allowed.
Right?
Yeah, we can
The delegation just emails with it. Because he didn't want, he didn't forget, he forgot. So you have to still send an email. You don't have to, am I correct, Mr. Clerk? So if he wants to delegate, he doesn't need a form, he can just send an email because he was already on the speakers list one time before.
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's preferred if we have a delegation form, just so we can file it with the agenda, but if we don't have one and an agenda item's published, then.
I was on the first where this was part of it, so I should have been carried through. Obviously, I wasn't, so that's why I'm saying I would like to be added again. I put my name back up again today with the young lady here to register, so I will make sure my email, everything is there again.
Okay.
Right? And then, I guess the last question concerning, I guess, some information that's been put out over the last couple of days by one of the councilors using taxpayer funds that is inaccurate. What is our steps to complain, and do we bring it to council? Do we have to go through a different process?
The clerk will, I think the clerk will answer that. Sorry, Peter, or legal?
So through you, Mr. Chair, if a member of the public.
Well, there's a flyer that came out yesterday from one of our councilors that has inaccurate information and some lies about what's going on that's using taxpayers' funds. I obviously have an issue with that. It's a slight to all the council members here. I just asked a question.
Guys, let's not start, well, just let legal answer.
I asked a question. Do I bring it here or where do I go?
Well, I think it would be the Interior Commissioner, yes, right? Peter?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, on the city's website, there is information in terms of if members of the public disagree or have a complaint they wish to file. Saving that, if you wish to send something to my attention as the city clerk, then I will deal with it. Or alternatively, if you're not satisfied, you can always,
I'll
there's
get
an
your
integrity
information and-
commissioner,
yeah.
which is, a complaint can be filed with the integrity commissioner, and it will be vetted appropriately.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next up, state your name,
I
please.
just want to make it very quick. I'm Kofi Senkofa, and I pay lots of taxes here. I want to first make an observation.
Sorry, this is question period.
Yes, it's what I'm doing.
Ask a question.
I'm going to get there.
Okay.
Mr. Fortino, or Fortini, let me ask the question, please. I have an observation first. I just want to warn council, be careful with changing laws so we don't have to call it Hester's Law. So be careful, because it's a legal question. And most of us here are not dumb. We know what's going on. So that's the warning to council. The second thing I want to say, when you do retroactive and you do reviews, be very careful, because we are not done here. Thank you.
Chamber, please, we're going to ask you questions.
I'm asking a question, sir.
Please ask a question.
Sure,
to
sure.
staff. No
Sure.
comment,
So I have met with many seniors who have been selling their homes, leaving Brampton because of affordability. So with that background, my question is, what is your plan to provide housing for seniors who can no longer afford to keep their own properties? In addition to that, what is your plan to attract investors to invest in seniors housing for Brampton? That's my question.
Your staff will come and stand back. Yes.
Thank you for
Just
the
questions,
opportunity to
please,
speak. Just
on
a
the report.
simple question.
Yes.
So the definition of what they have applied for is through the RHRAs. That's correct? Their application went through RHRA. So there's a clear definition of what that application is. Is it a senior's residence home? That's my question. And is that permitted under the bylaws with the restrictions of the, the meters between one to the other? But the question really is, what are they opening specifically? I'm not sure that we've really gotten to the core of that. Is it a group home, a senior's residence? But because the application came through RHRA, what does that state that they have applied for? That's my question. Thank you.
You could answer it also. They could get back.
Mr. Chair, so based on the information that we have, and I stand to, all right? Okay.
They were going to answer the question. He's going to answer the question. If they have an answer, we'll give it to you now.
Okay.
Yes?
So just to be clear, the application, obviously, the registration happens through the RHRA. In terms of our zoning bylaw, it's a group home type 1, which can have seniors occupants, but it would have to meet both the RHRA criteria registration requirements, plus the zoning criteria that we have in place. And under our current zoning bylaw, it's a group home type 1.
Thank you. Okay. Next. Say your name, please.
My name is Gaurav Nath. I'm a resident of Hillside Drive. And my question is similar to what the previous lady she asked. So the question is to the staff. I heard that this particular application meets the zoning bylaws. So does it meet the zoning bylaw for a group home type 1?
Through the chair, yes.
The old bylaws.
Yes, that was my question.
Last question. Thank you.
Last but not least.
The best, always for the last.
My name is Janet Cox, and I'm a resident of Oshawa. I came all the way here to support. And my question is, I represent a group of about 35 Black women, and we're in the process of setting up a workers' cooperative where we're looking to open a seniors' home. What would you recommend to us that for our seniors who are Black and we do not have any group homes where our seniors can go that are culturally sensitive to their needs? In Brampton, what would the committee, what would you recommend that we do as we set up this process in establishing something here in Brampton? Because we will be doing this in Brampton, in Toronto, and in Durham.
How many residents, sorry?
Pardon?
For 35?
35 Black women.
So yes, we have to talk to planning how.
Planning?
Planning.
Okay.
To planning how we could do as a zoning.
Who's planning? Who represents that? Okay.
As our applications move on, the provincial legislation says you need minimum 10 people with a full-time staff.
I can't hear you, sorry.
You need minimum 10 people with a full-time staff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're aiming for as we started this policy 7, 8 months ago. You have 35 people. Yes, you could talk to planning. If they could
Okay.
find you something, it would be really helpful to have you in
Definitely will be
Brampton.
doing that. Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you. Okay. No closed session. So our last item is adjournment. Okay, can I have a motion? Councilor Santos, thank you to the clerk and everyone for coming. Drive slow and see you November 18th.